there, it's Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. This is the Vellum paper pad that I'm going to be using in today's video. Now, there are 16 pieces in here. There's 2 of each, and I just recently showed the whole pad in a haul video that I posted a couple of videos ago. So if you want to see it in detail, you can go there. But they are 14 by 21 centimeters, so they're quite big pieces of vellum. And this is one from the pack that I'm going to be using today. This pack is one of my favorite packs of vellum. Often I kind of get a few that I'm not super keen on, but these ones have foil as well on some of them, and I'm loving it. So I'm going to start off by using this one with the floral outlines, and I have a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch paper underneath. And I'm going to be colouring these using my TriBlend alcohol markers. Now, any alcohol markers under the sun would work. These are just the set that I have, and they have 3 different colours on each pen. So there's a light, a medium, and dark, which means that there's no confusion as to which colours I could or should blend together. And that's just the way I like it, because alcohol markers in general are definitely not my first port of call when it comes to colouring options. But anyway, I started off by using just the dark one and kind of going around and blending it out. But what I really found with this vellum when I ended up turning it over is that it almost doesn't matter. So what's important here is to remember that I'm colouring on the wrong side, or the back side of the vellum. And this does mean that you don't have to be very careful at all. All you have to do is stay within the outside lines, which is obvious, unless you're going to cut it out, but I'm not. When you're colouring. So you can go to the effort of some really quick blending, but to be honest, it made very little difference. But anyway, so you'll see here when I turn it over, it does dull and mute the colour quite a lot. So I did go for quite bold colours, and I like the fact that it did mute it a little bit when I turned it over. So I am just going so quick through this colouring. I have sped this part of the video up, I think 2 times. But that's not a lot, so I'm honestly just really zooming through this and taking very little care. With these leaves, I just did a kind of medium colour on the whole leaf, and then slightly darker down the middle, and then a tiny little bit of blending. But as I said, I mean, you can hardly notice, so it's up to you whether you want to take the time to do it or not. Yeah. Now, I did briefly mention before that these are 14 by 21 centimeter pieces of vellum, which means that you can probably get 2 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch cards side by side. However, with this pattern in particular, I have chosen to kind of take the part that I want out of it. So I am really only going to get 1 card out of it. I could cut some of the flowers out of the leftovers, which I actually probably will. But if you kind of use the vellums which have a more continuous pattern and things, then you're definitely going to get more than 1 card out of it. So it is pretty good value for money when you think about how far you can make the vellum stretch, and lots of different things that you can use the vellum for. So as you can see, I chose a kind of really bright red, a really bright orange, and a nice bright yellow. And I could have gone with all 1 colour theme here, but seeing as this vellum was definitely going to be my focal point, I wanted it to be, I mean, as bright as I could get it, because as I said, when you turn it over, it does dull the colour a lot, but you can see there that when you put the white behind it as well, it does help the colour come through. So now I've just taken a slightly smaller rectangle. This is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of paper, and I just want to create a little frame with it. So I've taken a slightly smaller rectangle from the Hero Arts Rectangles Infinity die set, and I'm just going to run that through my die cutting machine quickly, and that way I will have a frame ready to go. So far this card has been one of the quickest I've ever made. The colouring probably took me around 5 minutes in real time, and yeah, this is a very quick card to put together. I'm going to be using this stamp set here, and it has Sending Birthday, which is joined together. This stamp set is from the KS Craft Lovers store as well, and then Wishes is in a different stamp. However, I'm going to separate these 2 with my scissors, just carefully cutting in between the 2 stamps, which doesn't hurt them at all. And I'm just going to use the 2 birthday wishes. So I'm putting that on an acrylic block, and then just using a long scrap of 80 pound Nina Solar White, which is the same paper that is used for the card base and the card front. I use £120 for the card base, but I use £80 for any card fronts or card panels that I make, and the same with the sentiment strips and things. I have broken my VersaFine ink pad, but it still goes fine, so I can use it just with the lid off instead of it bending back behind it, so that's fine. I'm trimming up my sentiment and not quite sure how I want it to sit, so I'm just going to carry on with the rest of the card in the meantime. Now this card would look really nice if I'd had it straight down on top of the white background with the vellum. However, vellum and the colouring really comes to life if you can lift it off the card base a little bit. So just to kind of enhance that, I am going to turn this into a little bit of a shaker card. I don't want it to have a lot of shake in it, but I do want to make it obvious that the vellum is up off the card. So I just took off that double-sided tape and I have adhered it down to the front of the vellum, and then I'm going to trim it up. As I said, if you were more careful and weren't choosing a specific spot like I was, you would definitely get 2 cards out of this. But I really do like the look of the part that I've chosen. And I'm just going to cut one side off flat of the sentiment and then make my own little banner for the other side, and that will sit flush against the right hand side, just right in there. So now I have some of Alina's foam tape. However, there are several ways that you can create shaker cards. You can either use foam tape, or you can just use normal fun foam and adhere it down, or you can just build up layers of cardstock even. So there's a few ways to do it. I'm pouring in just some iridescent sequins. Now I only want the iridescent ones. I don't want any color or anything behind it because I don't want anything to kind of distract from the vellum, more than the shaker card already does, I guess. And then this is how I line up my shaker cards when I'm putting my card base down on. First, I just take off the bottom half of the adhesive strips and then lay the card base onto the part that still has the release paper on and line it up, and then I push it down onto the top part which has the adhesive exposed. That way it's all not lined up nicely and I don't kind of miss and go wonky. So there you can see that the iridescent sequins do not take away from the vellum. They're not kind of shining through really crazily, but they still do create a nice little gentle shake. Now a few finishing touches. I'm taking some gold Nuvo drops and I am just filling in the centers of the flowers and these cute little bubbles. I'm going to zoom in just quickly so that you can see how I kind of color them in and how it takes them from being kind of plain to just a little bit more than that. And honestly, this card was so quick to complete that it is nice to put some finishing touches on cards like this, so it's just not quite so simple. I added a couple more little dots here and there around the vellum, but not too much, and that is my card complete. Thank you so much for watching this today. I hope you love this card as much as I do, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Thanks, bye!